Hello, Shabbat Shalom, and very soon, Shana Tova, a very happy and healthy and fulfilling new year to you and your families. Today I want to talk about one of the set pieces of the High Holy Day Liturgy, the Natana Tokef prayer. This prayer that encapsulates all the major themes of the High Holy Days in just a couple of paragraphs. And there's one particular theme that I wanted to focus on for today's talk because it's so rich, and yet it's stated so simply in the prayer that you might not even notice that there's anything amiss, but it is supposed to catch your attention and cause a change in consciousness, actually. It says, Uve shofar gadol yitaka, a great shofar is sounded, vechol dmama taka yishama, and a still small voice is heard. So you analyze that, and it doesn't make logical sense. If a great shofar is being sounded, then why is it that a still small voice is heard? It must be a commentary on the nature of this great shofar, which is probably not a literal shofar at all, but rather a great shofar, a cosmic shofar, which most likely is sounding not just on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, or even during the month of Elul, but which is sounding all the time, at all times and all places, which means that it must be possible to catch some experience of this shofar gadol any day or any moment of the year, wherever and whenever one happens to be. And how does one catch it? The clue is in the second part of that very pregnant phrase, and the sound of silence is heard. Kol d'mama daka yishama, still small voice is heard. And that still small voice is available at all times and all places. We generally don't notice it because we are either frenetically active or else we are deeply unconscious when we fall asleep. But the still small voice is heard in the twilight zone, if you will, between frenetic activity and the unconsciousness of sleep. The term that I like to use for this in-between state is restful alertness. We are alert and yet relaxed. As alert as any time we're frenetically active, as relaxed, or perhaps even more relaxed than when we're unconsciously asleep. So the state of restful alertness is a state of quiet and silence, and at the same time being conscious. And I think that we're much more apt to experience this sound of silence, the still small voice, when we're in nature. I notice it actually whenever I go to the lake. Behind or beyond the sound of motorboats or birds or the rustling of the wind in the trees is a kind of silent buzz. It's not just the absence of noise, but rather it's sort of an active vibration that one can pick up, especially in nature. But really, I think at any time and any place that one takes the time to be quiet. And what is the significance of that sound of silence? What is the significance of that great shofar? The idea of the shofar is that it's the sound calling us back to ourselves, what we call in Hebrew tshuvah, translated inadequately in English as repentance, but really means returning to self, returning to spirit, returning to God, returning to that place deep within where we know what the good is, where we know what the not good is, where we know what righteousness is, where we know weakness and unrighteousness are. It's a place of discernment, which is with us at all times, and which is actually the presence of God within us. So this is the larger meaning of that pregnant phrase, Uve shofar gadol yitaka v'kol d'mama yishama, that within that huge shofar blast of life, there is the availability of silence, of quiet, of discernment, of knowing right from wrong, that is always with us, and from which we shouldn't be distracted by the speed of life, by the speed of events that are always hurtling towards us. And so on this Rosh Hashanah, when you hear the sound of the actual shofar, think of what I'm saying, and pay particular attention to what happens before and in between and after the blasts of the shofar. At those very special moments, you may well hear the sound of silence. You may well experience a settling of the mind. You may well experience teshuvah, the repentance that I'm talking about that brings us back to ourself, that state of consciousness in which right and wrong are clear and the actions that we must take in our life become simple. So, wishing you again a Shabbat Shalom, leading into very soon a new year of health and happiness and fulfillment and hopefully peace in the Middle East and throughout the world, and for you personally.